Biome Grow Inc. is a Canadian-based cannabis company with national and international business interests. Biome owns 5 subsidiaries, including the Back Home Medical Cannabis Corporation in Newfoundland and Labrador, Great Lakes Cannabis in Ontario, Highland Grow Inc. in Nova Scotia, Red Sands Craft Cannabis Company in Prince Edward Island, and Weed Virtual Retail Inc., a company in Ontario which operates a new virtual reality technology platform focused on the medical and recreational cannabis markets. Biome Grow Inc. is headquartered in Toronto and trades on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol BIO.
Interesting discussion on CBD.
Yeah.
Are we just talking about Biome, or what, I didn't know what the topic was when I showed up.
Well, Biome, obviously, we'll talk about.
Okay.
Hey, ho, and a ding-dang-dell, we're back. What the hell? Boy, what are we going to talk about? That's what we were talking about. Do you know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about Biome Grow. Khurram Malik joins me right now. He's the CEO of Biome Grow, trading on the CSE under the symbol BIO. Khurram, welcome back.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Khurram, you are, besides being the only person I know who actually does talk faster than me when you get going, that you're also the person who I've known who's been all over the cannabis space in Canada since the beginning. Mm-hmm. So you were formerly acting as one of the few certified, or rather chartered financial analysts in the space who was able to cover every company, and you did so multiple times on major television networks in the business space. Then you decided to become the CEO of Biome Grow. Yes. And just because some of the audience doesn't know about Biome Grow yet, tell me how that whole process came about and how did Biome Grow start?
Sure. I mean, the thinking was when we were previously investment bankers and consultants in the industry and helped build some of the largest companies in the space today, you know, it took a couple years of figuring out what worked and didn't work. So Biome was something that came later. It's about 2 years old. And we thought we could build a more efficient cannabis platform than has been built to date. So we start with a blank slate, and we take the best practices we've learned over the years helping our former clients. And how do you build a more efficient company? Efficient means raising less money, spending less money, but also getting a better bang for your buck in terms of product going out. So I don't have to build, for example, millions of square feet of production space. Right. I can still do hundreds of millions of millions of dollars in revenue still without having to do that.
Sure.
So there's quite a few aspects to it.
Okay, and what is the sort of market focus for Biome?
Indeed. So we went commercial in Canada in January of this year after getting our license in Nova Scotia. We're doing pretty well over there. I think our product lasts for about 2 or 3 days on the shelf and it's gone. Oh, it's always, and also in Newfoundland, similar situation.
Oh, great.
We are building out some additional expansion of our capacity here in Canada, but what really makes the story interesting is what we're going to be doing overseas. And sort of dovetailing into what you were previously talking about, CBD, we're going to be primarily selling a lot of CBD overseas in jurisdictions that are just about to come online with regulations for cannabis. Mm-hmm. And in about 2 years, we'll probably do 80% of our revenue overseas and maybe 20% here in Canada. I mean, I always hark back to the fact there's 36 million people in Canada. It's a small market. And the big guys who've been actively participating in the sector for a while have got most of that locked down. So if we are coming a little later in the game, we've got to be pretty intelligent of how we sort of position ourselves. Atlantic Canada is interesting for us. What we do here, that's a beachhead in Canada, but our real cash flow is going to come from overseas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so especially where overseas do you see the greatest opportunity?
Again, we like to go where other people are not. So, you know, our history, power guys for cannabis, we're regulatory specialists. So we help influence or write regs in countries that don't have programs yet. Sure. So it's been many years in the making. But we do like to be the first in the door.
So
in
which countries?
So I can't say countries specifically, but look at Asia and Africa.
Oh, okay, interesting. Great. So then, is the supply for your stuff in the Maritimes? Does that come from? Where does that come from?
Well, it's currently being produced in our licensed facility in Nova Scotia. Okay. We have a few more under construction in the other provinces in Atlantic Canada, plus one in Ontario. But that will be primarily THC-based products. And then we've got a supply agreement with a related party called CBD Acres that we announced a few weeks ago, which, you know, there's some related, you know, we're also founders in, for example, so there's some common founders in ownership between the two. And CBD Acres will be supplying Biome with an enormous amount of biomass, well, really in concentrate form, that allow us to ship that product ultimately overseas. There's a lot of proprietary technology. It's a hemp company that produces CBD. 9,000 acres in Ontario, and increasing beyond that. That's more biomass than any LP in Canada can produce today. Mm-hmm. And we can do for cents per gram. And the point for that is we're going to countries where we want affordable medicine, and you can't do that with cannabis products based on Canadian regulations. So we produce some of the most expensive cannabis in the world because we're forced to.
Right.
But with hemp, with the way the Hemp Act works and how it dovetails into the Cannabis Act, when you take the flower and you turn it into something, we can produce some of the lowest cost points anywhere in the world. So, for example, you set up a hemp farm in Africa, it won't be much cheaper than setting it up here if you know what you're doing. So that's actually an interesting new development which didn't exist in the cannabis space until now.
Okay, interesting you bring up CBDs because that's been very thematic around here for the last couple of weeks because there is such a sort of a gold rush going on, if you will, that so many companies are piling into the space. They're going to be the biggest, they're going to be the best, that we've started to really research it. So I want to ask you, because you're experienced in this. So I've got 2 CBD products here. I'm not going to identify them. I'm just going to put them on this thing, and I want you to basically tell me what you think of each product in terms of, so the interesting thing with these products is they are, oops, I just sprayed that on my computer, but oh well, this will be nice and slippery.
Go faster.
So here they are. They're both 48 to 50 milligrams per milliliter of CBD.
Okay.
And one is, how would you describe them?
One's a clear, one looks like it's a little less, it's probably not water soluble to some degree. So that's one thing. Can you let me know if they're isolates or full spectrum?
They're both full spectrum.
They are full spectrum. Okay, well this one seems like it's a little more advanced in terms of what it can do. Typically, if it's a water-soluble solution, it'll absorb in your body a lot quicker. Okay. And it avoids certain parts of the liver pathways to get into your system. So that's intriguing. The other one looks like it's more of an older school version of how you sort of combine cannabinoids with a liquid to get into your body.
Sure. Interesting. So, I mean, do you consume CBDs?
Yes, I do.
Okay, which of these would you prefer?
The clear one.
Okay, now here's the interesting thing. The company that produced this CBD has a market cap of $2.7 billion. The company that produces this CBD has a market cap of $175 million. Okay. And this one's private, this one's public, so that one's up for debate.
Yeah, but you can also, that's perfectly in line with how the entire sector is working right now, right? Sure. If you look at the largest companies in the space and look at the product reviews on their products, the smaller guys are the black market of higher quality product. Right. So these guys will figure out eventually. Right. But I'm assuming these guys are more focused on CBD and tinctures and oils and extractions, and these guys are probably more flower focused right now and everything else. They'll get around to it eventually, but that's sort of how the broader space and theme is currently focusing as well.
Sure. Well, this is interesting. So I had an investment in this company, which I sold because it was a double. Okay. And I took all that money and put it into this company because this one's not public yet, and it's about to it's going to go public. Right. So interesting. So now, in terms of your CBD partner, now which of that kind of oil would you seek to produce?
It'll be more like this. It'll be more about 100 milligrams per milliliter as well, because we target certain diseases. For example, drug-resistant epilepsy, you need a higher dose in there, even if it's for children of 3 or 4 years old. Right. So it'll be higher. It'll also have an oil, which is probably a chia seed oil, which is easier on the stomach lining than what other people currently have in the market, which is interesting. It'll be produced with a nanolipid extraction process, which is geared specifically for hemp flower, as opposed to, because they're lower concentration CBD and hemp, right? So versus, so it's easier to process the biomass. Right.
So what is the average concentration of CBD and hemp in terms of percentage?
It's in Canada? Yeah. Canada is interesting. So you have to register a hemp variety with the authorities at the federal level. I think there are 50, don't quote me on this, but I think there are 50 roughly registered varieties of hemp currently, and not a single one of them is over 3% right now. Really? So what's going to be happening this year, including with CBD Acres, our related party, they're going to be registering your 15%, your 22%, and your 23%. So we just don't know right now how well it'll grow outside in the Canadian climate. The 2% varieties are well, sort of versed in. There's a track record how they grow. So that's what most people are growing this year. So next year, where you get the higher varieties, we'll see what happens. But the best right now are those tiny percentages. Right.
I'm growing a high CBD strain called Dance Hall.
Nice.
Yes.
What's the THC?
It's 19%, up to 19%. CBD. Okay. I won't know exactly what it ends up yielding until I harvest it and test it, of course. Okay. But I'm very curious to see. The whole CBD craze now, it seems like has caused a complete bifurcation of the cannabis market, because it is now 2 industries really. It's the CBD market and it's the THC market.
I agree.
And they do come together at some points in the pharmaceutical value chain.
Indeed.
But in the current evolution of the markets, it's like, so CBD has now taken off and is more broadly embraced than THC, which still suffers from restrictions due to its psychotropic nature.
Exactly, and we've been looking at that for a while now. So when we go into a foreign jurisdiction, let's say Asia, where societies are a little more conservative than they are in the Western world, we sort of go in there and say, okay, right, we either convince the government to write regs for medical cannabis, or go in there and hopefully tinker to make it more rational based on our Canadian learnings. So the way we do it is stage one is let's launch a medical program with targeted diseases that only CBD treats, because it's easier to convince clinicians and doctors and regulators that it's non-psychoactive. Well, it's largely non-psychoactive. That's an easy way to go. Step two, THC-based meds. And then step three, maybe recreational way down the line at some point. So yeah, that's a philosophy we sort of embraced for quite some time. Now, what's interesting here is our two companies, Biome and CBD Acres, we have kept them separate for that reason. The fundamentals of a hemp company and fundamentals of an indoor cannabis company are dramatically different, right? So it didn't make sense to put them in maybe one day down the road. But Biome is the commercialization arm for medical products for CBD Acres overseas, whereas CBD Acres will make functional foods and other sort of recreational products here in Canada.
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you see your revenue scaling over the next 12, 24, 36 months?
Let me put it this way. We've signed a supply deal with CBD Acres for about 20,000 kilograms of CBD concentrate. That's concentrate. That's the equivalent of 180,000 kilograms of dried flower. It's the largest supply deal in the history of this planet when it comes to any kind of cannabis.
Wow.
That's 180,000 kilograms. And we're going to need quite a bit of that for our Asian and African and potentially South American customers.
Sure. Okay. So how do you extract that? What if you
so that's the key thing, right? So it's one thing to grow hemp.
Right.
Then you were talking hundreds of acres of hemp fields, right? So then there's a whole other aspect you've got to figure out. How cultivate it all? Then once you cultivate it, how do you dry it? And once you dry it, how do you extract it? Once you extract it, what do you do with it? Because it's huge volumes, right?
Right.
And if you look at the extraction bottleneck on the cannabis side in Canada, most people haven't figured out how to extract yet properly, right? So building that value chain in CBD Acres where all those different aspects are figured out. I haven't found another company in North America that has all those aspects figured out. So if you look at the US has no expertise in growing hemp with the exception of some pilot programs in Kentucky. So it'll take a while to figure out that side of the upstream part of it. They can do the extraction side because that's they've been doing extraction of cannabis for a while. In Canada, it's the other way around. We know how to grow hemp. We're one of the largest hemp growers in the world for decades now, probably number 2 after China. But we suck at extraction and we suck at downstream processing and edibles and other sorts of products. So that's where our sort of issue is. So those are the two different constraints. So in CBD Acres, they've got all that figured out with technology and know-how and proprietary sort of elements. So we're pretty confident that they'll be able to supply us Biome with some very high quality finished products, whether they're tinctures, pills, creams of various kinds and all that.
And where does CBD Acres produce their hemp?
Here in Ontario, actually. So it's actually a very capital efficient business model, which investors like and some don't, because we don't own the farmland there. We rent it from other farmers, some very large farmers in Ontario. We show them how to grow, we give them the seeds, and we come and harvest using our proprietary harvesters, which have to be very uniquely made. If you take a regular combine and you run it through a hemp field, it'll break down in 2 minutes.
Right.
It's a tough plant.
Right.
So it's a specially designed combine that just slices the flower off, makes sure it never hits the ground so it remains organic. And it's dried in a very proprietary way. Otherwise, you can waste weeks drying this stuff. You can do it in 2 days.
Cool. Well, that's going to be quite the thing. I imagine you're going to take a lot of video footage of this stuff being harvested this year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Khurram, let's leave it there for now. That's a great update on the company. We'll come back to you soon enough and keep following the story. Thanks for joining me.
No problem.